Bullhouse Chapel in the summertime. The sun is breaking through. The collar is gone, the choir's song, the early morning view. The railway line passed here, but that's in days gone by. No more the trains, a crying shame, now walkers they pass by. It happened in the afternoon in 1884, where death descended quickly upon this fabled moor. People came from miles around to view the awful scene, the tragic mess, the lurid press, the early camera gleams. We'd like to take you back there, a train upon a rail, a July day, so if we may, please listen to our tale.
Welcome back to one of my films. I'm Dave Cherry, of course, and I'm at the lovely Bullhouse Chapel. We've come to talk about the 1884 railway disaster. Now then, Penistone, this line, what went past here, a very busy line in 1884.
What year was this, Dave?
1884.
1884, right.
94 trains a day through here.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were they transporting?
Mainly coal and
passengers,
etc.
Passengers as well?
Yeah, from Manchester, London Road, to Sheffield Victoria and everywhere else.
Right.
Well, London Road, Dave, is now Manchester Piccadilly then, yes?
That's quite correct. Right, the train left Manchester at 12:30 on Wednesday, the 16th of July, 1884. It leaves Manchester 12:30 and it comes through the Woodhead Tunnel. It's actually 4 minutes late. Woodhead's that way about 4 miles. When it gets to here, 1:21.
So which direction was the train going, Dave?
It's coming from Manchester that way. From Dunford Bridge back there, and it's a slight incline all the way down to Penistone.
Right.
So he shuts off steam, and now we're about I'd say about 300 yards from the point of impact.
Right.
From the underbridge. The signal box man in the signal box is an almighty crack. The axle rod breaks on the locomotive.
And he hears this, does he?
He hears this loud crack. The locomotive's at D12. The axle rod makes the rails part. So the carriages go straight up over the left-hand side.
Right.
And it's utter carnage.
All 10, Dave? All 10?
All 10 were all
Was it a sheer drop then, or was it flat land?
24 feet drop. The engine driver, called Kaywood, said he kept steam on until I passed Dunford Bridge station, then I shut steam off.
Yeah.
That's the usual place for shutting off steam.
Yeah.
Until leaving Penistone. I think I was running between 45 and 50 miles an hour when approaching Bullhouse. The first thing I heard wrong, was just west of the Bullhouse signal box. I heard something like a crack in the motion. That's when axle rod goes.
Right. Which is what the signalman heard as well.
Yeah. So this, Tony, is where the signal box was, where the signal box operator heard the mighty crack of the axle rod going. So we're roughly about 100 yards off the vicious right-hand curve. 1990 were killed straight away. They sent the bodies to the Wentworth Arms, you know the Wentworth Arms? The pub in Penistone.
Yeah.
There was like a carriage works behind, and all the bodies were all piled in there. There were 68 which went on a train back to Manchester to the Royal Infirmary.
What was the capacity of the train?
100 passengers were on the train. 19 gets killed straight away and 5 dies later. And this is an incredible thing, absolutely incredible.
So it's a quarter of the passengers. 25%.
Yeah, the line's clear by 12:30 here.
Yeah.
So here we are, this is the actual site, Tony, of the actual train crash. The locomotive comes off the road here.
Yes.
And the carriages go hurtling down there.
Down this banking.
The old embankment is roughly 100 yards. Right, so the loco comes down here.
Because it's quite a curvature.
It's a vicious right-hand curve.
Yes.
Well, Dave, how did the carriages finish up over the bridge?
Well, I've studied this intently. Let's go back to Manchester. The train leaves Manchester at 12:30. We about 7 carriages on. It gets to a place called Godley, which is roughly 8.6 miles from Manchester, or 24 minutes. In other words, halfway house to here. So what they do at Godley, they extend the train behind the locomotive. They put a Cheshire Lines Committee horse box.
Oh yeah.
And then a brake van and another GNR composite carriage. So at the end of the day, there's a locomotive with a tender, with the horse box, with a brake van, and then we think 2 first-class carriages and 8 more second-class and third-class carriages.
So they added to the initial train. Got you.
Right, now we've got an actual chap who sees it. I'm quoting now from the Manchester Courier and Lancashire General Advertiser on the 19th of July, which is 3 days after the 16th, after the accident.
Right.
A fella called Mr. Dudson, he was walking along the road when the actual train crashes.
He was lucky.
He was very lucky.
Could have copped out.
And this is what he says in verbatim. A well-dressed lady was lying dead on the ground. The dead body of a gentleman dressed in a black cloth suit lay a few yards off, the lower part of his body being in a frightful state of mutilation. This is like Victorian English I'm quoting now. So right, 2 well-dressed females who had evidently travelled in one of the first-class carriages. Notice it says one of the first-class. So there must be at least 2.
Obviously 2, yeah.
Lying on the road. Resting on the head of them was a large coping stone which had been displaced from the bridge. So it had dropped off bridge. You know, the accident must have knocked this coping, great big stone, and that's
as well as the accident going, it actually crashed into something as well. And
it goes on. Mr. Dudson, this is his fella who sees it, and his companion rolled away the stone and found the lady dreadfully injured, or of course dead.
So Dave, did the accident happen after the signal box?
Oh yes, and we've got a prime witness here, this fella, Henry Baxter, they called him, the signalman on duty that day at Bullhouse.
Wow.
Reports at 1:21, he gets the time bang on, 1:21. In verbatim, quote, I watched the train approaching but noticed nothing unusual, either in the speed or running of the engine or train. In other words, he's looking up the track here and he sees it coming, until just as the engine was passing my box, I heard a very heavy thud, as though something had been broken. I then noticed the engine begin to oscillate very violently. It continued to oscillate, and when the middle of the train was about halfway between my box and the underbridge, I saw the carriages swaying to the left and then leave the rails and run down the side of the embankment. In other words, Danny, left, that's the Penistone side, right? All the train went down the bank on the west side of the underbridge, Penistone side, except I think the front brake van, which rolled down the east side of the bridge.
Wow.
And
so it finished up on both sides of the track then, some of the debris and everything.
So the loco with the tender, the horse box, stay on the top of the bank, off the rail of course, but the front brake van goes to the Manchester side, and all the carnage on the left, on the Penistone side.
First class carriages on the left then went down there. Well, here we are, a lovely interpretation board which really tells the story. It was obviously well covered, you know, and beautifully done. Look at that wonderful line drawing there. It's fantastic.
You can actually see the colliery of the pit.
Yeah, we haven't seen that before, yeah.
But I like this story, Danny. School children, Mr. Joseph Ensor, master of the Millhouse Board School, that's bottom here roughly.
Yeah, Millhouse School, know it, yeah.
Said the first intimation he had of the accident was a message that the children from the school were all running down the road. Well, it's up the road.
What, towards the disaster?
And although the time for opening the school for the afternoon had arrived, there was not a child in attendance. He went out and on looking towards the line observed, and what at first he took to be a train on fire, at a few moments the air was clearer. He realised that a train had fallen down the embankment and caused the dust to rise in such quantities as to be mistaken for smoke. But don't forget the lot of paraffin lamps on, you know, before electric.
So they could see it from way down there. That's a good full, perhaps, 700, 800 yards away.
Yeah, so he hurried down and found a terrible scene of confusion. A large number of children assembled near the scene. But this is a scene of the carnage, this west side of the bridge. This is where it all happened, all the bodies mangled up on the road.
Yeah, well, you see the depth of the fallen now, can't you?
24 foot. Thousands of people from Barnsley, Sheffield and the surrounding country visited the scene of Wednesday's accident at Bullhouse Bridge. In the afternoon, the spectators were numbered to be thousands.
Wow.
What rendered the scene most interesting were the operations of a large gang of men engaged in removing the wreck. By evening, all traces of the accident had been removed. Small pieces of wood, glass, scraps of iron and air were lying about in all directions, and the people were taking them for, for souvenirs.
Was there any pillaging from people's valuables? Because there's 100 people on the train, there's a few valuables going on there.
It was shocking.
That's happened.
Right.
You've got a question whether any valid investigation.
That's what I'm just coming to John. I'm just coming to that because that is very important.
Yeah.
The Board of Trade Investigation basically were another Victorian whitewash because there was no mention about the axle rod, which of course were metal fatigue, they'd not been serviced right.
I was going to ask
There's
about
no railway.
Yeah.
All they talked about were the vacuum brakes
Right.
on the locomotive. 6 months before, the railway company had been warned there's another accident back down the line at Dinting. What happened there, and the brakes didn't fail to safety. When the carriages parted from the locomotive, they didn't fail safe, the brakes didn't come on, they just didn't come on.
How old was the train, Dave?
This is important, the locomotive, the D12, built in 1877, which is 8 years.
Yeah. That's nothing.
Yeah.
No, it's
8
not.
years
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
In the MS and LR, that's a company at Gorton, Manchester,
Yeah.
and it had last been through the works for repairs in November 83. So it's been through the works, it's July, 6-7 months before.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Board of Trade Enquiry never focused on this broken axle rod. So they kept banging on about these brakes. So literally, the company got away with it.
The company at the time which was the MS and L Railway, Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway. Right.
As I said,
So the report just didn't mention the axle, just mentioned the
mention
lack of
it.
brakes.
it just
And that's
mentioned-
what they decided was the problem.
So
So it was a weak part, wasn't it?
it took them another 3 years for them to modify the locos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The official Board of Trade report ran to 20 pages. They concluded that the cheap braking system of the engines should be scrapped, as any break or rupture in the vacuum pipe that connected the carriages will cause the brakes not to work. In other words, they didn't fail to safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Dave,
it.
just on
Sorry.
on the previous similar accident, were the fatalities on that as well?
I didn't get that one,
No,
John. I didn't. All I know, I think one carriage come off and went down the
Yeah.
viaduct. at
Yes,
Dinting.
it did. Yeah, it certainly wasn't
seems-
as bad as
No,
the
no.
Bullhouse one.
One thing that's right.
But it
So
was-
there was no compensation, no insurance or anything for the victims.
No, that's just it, Danny. It's what's called a cop-out, isn't it? You know. So I think that's it, lads. I think that's enough. So can't thank you enough for coming. Here's Nandy's me heart. The cheque will be in the post.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, I do hope you've enjoyed our little film about this 1884 train disaster. So I do hope you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that's your lot from Dave Sherry, and thanks a lot, Danny.
My pleasure, Dave.
Here's me hand, here's me heart.
Is this the commercial you're doing now?
No,
Right, okay.
the cheque will be in the post. That's your lot.
Still
Thank you.
working cheap, you know.